Hey everyone, and welcome back to So Vegan Easy with me, Ali Helmuth. What we're going to do today is a really nice patatas bravas vegan style. So I'll just run through the ingredients with you and then we'll get cooking. What we have going on today is a nice red onion, some garlic, some tomatoes. Any tomatoes will do. I implore you to get organic because it does make a big difference. Some potatoes. You can have new potatoes or whole potatoes. Doesn't really make a difference. Always try and avoid packaging there where possible. Some mushrooms. Any mushrooms again will do. Some rainbow chard I've got today. As you can see, it's getting a little bit old, but it's still good. You can use anything. You could use spinach, any kind of greens that you fancy. Got some McCartney sausages, which are great, really simple to work with and doesn't involve you having to make anything from fresh. Some tofu, some tomato puree, and half a lemon. Okay, so let's get prepping. First thing I'm going to make sure is that your chopping board is nice and stuck down, it's not going to slide around anywhere, and you've got a sharp knife. So you always want to make sure that you're regularly sharpening a knife. It makes your life so much easier. So we will start off with the new potatoes. You're going to go probably about a centimetre cubed, but we don't need to be too exact with it. The whole idea is just so it doesn't take too long to cook. And again, I'm only going to be cooking for myself, but what I normally do when I'm cooking is depending on the meal to be honest, but is I'll normally cook enough for two so that I can just pop it in the fridge and then it's good to go for the next meal time that I fancy it. And it just saves on extra cooking or ease of life. So what I've just been doing with these is pretty much all the same size, but just in half, a couple of cuts, and try and hold it together, and then a couple more, just like that. And I think one more will be enough. Just a little bit dirty. So once again, in half, 2 cuts, and then dice them up and put them in a corner. So next up, we'll go with the red onion, cutting the end off, popping that off to the side again with the back of the knife, straight in half, peel off the layers until you get to the nice juicy bit. And I'll normally peel it from this top end, and that's why I don't chop that end as well, or one reason why I don't chop that end, just so that it's a bit easier to get to. But every onion is different, so you might need to do a different technique. And there we go. So we'll actually just slice these just straight across like that. And I've mentioned it before, but just again with your knife control and your knife handling, is that you want to hold the knife with your index finger going over the blade and then your thumb just touching the other side, and it gives you a bit more control with the knife. You really feel like you're secure with it and you're holding it. And then with the onion, you don't really have to do it so much with slicing when you're just doing it as slices, but it's good to get in the practice of it, of holding with your pinky and thumb, your fingers over the top, and you'll use your fingers just as a guide to help keep it finely chopped. And there's your onion, and that can go in that pile with the potatoes because we're going to pop that all in at the same time. Your garlic, I think I'll probably do 1 to 2 cloves of garlic depending on how big the size it is and how strong you'd like the taste. and I'm going to pop this just on the side because we'll put that in just afterwards. And don't worry if you don't have one of these fine graters, you can just use a knife and just chop it up as fine as you want. So we'll go one more smaller one, and there you go. Clear your bits off. The other thing might just be worth noting, you'll notice that I'm always just popping things on the side on the surface, and that way once I'm finished with my chopping board, all I do is I scoop it onto the chopping board and then into the bin, and it just makes life a lot easier. So next up we'll go with the mushrooms. The other thing just to note as well is I always tend to try and chop in order of the things that I'm going to be using, so that it's just easier when I'm going in and I'm just chopping and I go this one, then this one, then this one. It just helps your life out. You're always trying to think of those little hacks to just make it a bit easier. And we can put the mushrooms in with the garlic because they'll go in at the same time. And what I'm going for this is just kind of bite-sized pieces that is not too thick, not too thin, so that you still get the texture, but you should hopefully get a nice little crunch to it, or crispiness to it. So in half, a couple of times, go a few more. And the other thing just to remember with mushrooms, I'm sure you're all aware, but they shrink down quite a lot, so you always want to use a bit more than you think. But that should be good. Then we'll go with our chard, and what I'm going to do with these is pick it up by the stems, chop where the stems start getting finer, and then I'm going to chop the dirty ends off and finally chop these. So again, you want to practice your technique of holding it with your thumb and your pinky, resting the knife on the side of your finger just between your two joins basically, and then you're going to go like this, and the knife is going to move in a circular motion just like this, and you'll see that there's always kind of a point that it will be touching, so you're never lifting off and you keep that control. And then with more and more practice, you start off really slow and just get that motion solid, and then with more and more practice it will just come naturally and you'll be able to speed up. But that's the key of not trying to go too fast too quickly, because it just makes your life a lot more difficult to try and then do it accurately, so it's better to start off slowly and then go from there. So what I'm then going to do with the rest of the leaves is a couple of centimetres in between. And again, with none of this, we're not trying to be very specific, it's just a rough chopping. And then the last, or second last thing actually, is these tomatoes. So we'll just be chopping them, again, just roughly, so you're getting a nice bite. Almost running out of room, but I think we'll just manage. And then these smaller yellow ones can just go straight in like that. And what I'm actually going to do with the tomatoes is pop them on here, because they're just going to be thrown on top as a garnish. So again, another thing that you always want to be thinking about when you're cooking is making sure you've got the difference in textures, flavours, and it's always good to get a bit of a cold and hot, well not always, most of the time it's good to get that really nice balance of a bit of cold in there to keep it nice and fresh and just keep that really nice balance of flavours. The last thing we're going to use is tofu. So just FYI, the tofu or the chard isn't necessary. You could really mix and match anything. Obviously patatas bravas is typically with the potatoes, but if you wanted to mix things out, then please feel free. It's all about just having fun and experimenting anyway. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to chop it so you have nice long thick kind of matchstick pieces, and then we're going to go fairly finely chopped. I'll just finish that last bit off. And then we will actually get another bowl for this, and we're just going to make almost like our own version of a scramble, just really simple though. I forgot to include oat milk. So then with the tofu, what you're going to do is just pop it in a bowl. Add about a tablespoon and a half of the oat milk, and then you're just going to mash it up quickly. So just grab a fork, mash it up, and then we'll add some seasoning. It's going to take a bit of a while to mash up, so bear with me. Okay, so that's good enough. It's not perfectly mashed, but it's that nice balance. It's good to have the combination of the chunks and the mash. So that is ready to go. And then we will head over and get cooking. Okay, so what we have going on is a frying pan for the scramble, a spatula for scraping both that and the patatas bravas, a big pot. You could use a big frying pan as well if you wanted. Just ideally you want to have something that you can cover, so that we're going to do this first stage of popping the potatoes and the onions in and then adding a bit of water to them and just let that cook off a little bit like that. So first thing we're going to do is pop both of them, the big pot onto high heat, the smaller frying pan will go onto about middle heat, and the grill we're going to stick on full, and we'll pop the sausages in first. So you just get them out of the packet. I pop them straight on a tray, and I don't bother using any foil or anything, because you can just clean that and it saves on wasting any packaging if you don't need to. So I'm going to use 3 sausages and pop them straight in. And then just check the packet, and they're going to cook for 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to pop my trusty egg timer on for 10 minutes. You always want to do the lower time and then check on them just to make sure that they're not burning or anything like that. I might actually pop it down to 6 minutes, just so that I'm making sure that they're not cooking too much on one side. So we'll take our lid off and go straight in. Oh, excuse me. We'll add some oil to the bottom of the pan and some seasoning. And now we'll go straight in with our potatoes and onions. bit of a mix around. And now is the time when I would add any herbs or spices that you might want to put in. You can leave it literally plain. You can add some rosemary and thyme, make it a bit more of an English patatas bravas. Or what I'm going to do today is trusty old paprika, about a tablespoon of paprika and a tablespoon of oregano, two of my favourite go-tos. Okay, so you give that a nice mix around. And then you'll add about half a cup of water. Once again, give that a nice mix. And then we will pop the lid on that. And you always want to just be regularly checking on anything when you've got the lid on it, just to make sure nothing's getting too burnt. And then we'll go over for our pan for the scramble, and we're going to just pop some oil in there, not too much, and some salt. And then your tofu. If you fancied it, you could add some turmeric and paprika. Gives it that very similar taste to a scramble. I'll probably do a scramble in another video, but I just wanted to keep this really simple and concentrate on just the natural goodness and flavours that we have going on. So now what we'll do for the next few minutes is keep an eye on these two until they start turning a little bit brown and the potatoes start cooking. Okay, so my timer has just gone off for the sausages, so I've just had a quick look at them and they're all good. So I'm going to pop that on for another 4 minutes. This is starting to cook away nicely now, and then potatoes looking really good, starting to get coated in all that wonderful goodness. Just going to add a little bit more water. Even it out again, make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. And then we have another couple of minutes. Okay, so as you can see, the water has just evaporated. Potatoes are just starting to get cooked now. You can feel them starting to squidge. It's good if you're unsure to just take a bit out and kind of bite it and see how that's doing. You want it to just literally, it's almost like it's a bit undercooked would be the perfect point. And then if you have a look with this scramble as well, you can see these nice brown bits going on. So I'm just going to pop the heat off for that, because that'll be ready to chuck in when we need it. And then we're going to go straight in with the mushrooms, with the garlic, and we'll leave the chard or your greens just for now. So you just kind of want to put them in right near the end. Just going to add a little bit more water to that, just because you want to keep that, all the goodness from it, which would kind of wilt away and go a bit soggy, so just want to leave that for a little bit longer. I'm just going to add a little bit more oil just to help it cooking. The other thing you can do to make your life a bit easier as well is to do the potatoes exactly as we did, but just roast them instead. And that way you don't have to worry about them sticking or anything like that. I just prefer to make it a bit simpler and have it all as one pot. And you've still got the different textures because you have the crispy scramble in there as well. So my sausages are just about done now, so I can take them out. And what I'm going to do with the sausages is just chop them up, and they're going to go straight in the dish. Might want to use a fork because they are quite hot. Okay, so they are going to go in at the same time as the chard. So it looks about ready to go now. Okay. A few sausages down. Okay, so once again I'm just going to pop a bit of the oil at the bottom, a little bit of salt on top, then I'm just going to pop the lid on and help that cook for literally about 30 seconds. Another couple of things which I forgot to mention, which I just showed you guys but I wasn't recording, is that just to add a tablespoon of tomato puree in here and then cook that off for literally about 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And then we've got your lemon going on there, which has just got a nice little char grilled look going on there. It makes the taste just a little bit different and just adds the extra touch to it. So now that is good to go, and we're going to go over and plate up. Okay, so we're ready to plate up. I've just grabbed a little bit of parsley just to go on the garnish on top. It was struggling a little bit as the autumn and winter's coming in. And I've grabbed a ladle to help just plate up a bit nicer. So we're going to scoop and go straight on. You always want to try when you're plating up to make sure that you don't get anything around this outer rim, and the general rule is to not put anything on the plate, and it just gives it that nice kind of break of the clean line and just makes the food look a bit nicer. One other thing I forgot to mention actually is just to check your seasoning just before you're plating up. So there we have a nice mound, and I'll pop that to one side, and then I'm going to stick our lovely bit of lemon there, and the scramble, just going to make a little bit of a gap for it. That should be enough. Now I'm just going to tear off some parsley, just sprinkle it on top like that. And if you have a little ramekin, it's nice to just kind of mix up the plate just like that, or you can just pour it straight on. It's totally up to you. And I'm going to finish it with a little bit of olive oil, and some nice fresh black pepper. And there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to watch more. Otherwise, dig in.